We'll start this section by implementing the loading view. But before we start implementing anything, let's just take a step back and see a bigger picture in order to understand why are we doing something. We will have two flows, two main parts of the app. We'll have the login flow and the main flow, and have the loading view as a place to put the logic for deciding which view to show first. If the user hasn't seen the onboarding view yet, we will show that to the user first. If he has seen the onboarding view, he'll be presented with the login view. These views will be in the login flow together with the register screen. If the user has been logged in the last time he has used the app, then the first view he will see is the wallet view, and here the rest of the screens are the screens we have implemented already. Main flow is the flow we have defined in the app shell.xaml. So all that structure we have already defined, that's the main flow of the app. And for the login flow, we'll create a completely new shell file. So let's start with creating the loading view first. I'm going to create a loading folder, and here I need to add two files. First file is the loading view, and the second file is a loading view model. While we are here, let's just bind these two components together. So binding context of the loading view is the loading view model. And in the onAppearing method, which we will override, we will take the binding context we have. Let's cast that to the loading view model and perform initialize async. But in order to be able to perform initialize async, we need to inherit the base view model. And now we can call the initialize async parameter. It's going to be null. This is an async method, so we need to await it. The actual implementation of the loading view is going to be fairly simple. So the only thing we need to have on this view is the activity indicator, and I'll put some label stating that we are loading the app. So let's wrap these two components in a stack layout. We will just set the vertical options to center and horizontal option to the center as well, so that we present our activity indicator at the center of the screen. Color is going to be accent. Is running is true, and is visible also true. Let's just add label simple with text loading. And now what we have to do is to change the initial view of our app. It's not going to be app shell anymore, but instead we are going to resolve the loading view. And now we can see our activity indicator. Okay, let's implement the decision making logic in the initialize async method. what we will need is the iNavigation service. Let's call this navigation service, and we need to inject that through the constructor. I have also defined two new constants in the constants class. So I have defined show onboarding flag named shown onboarding, and the other one is string is user logged in. This is user logged string, and we will use this string to determine the initial view of the app. We will also use Xamarin Essentials to help us with storing some data related to the flow, and we will use preferences from the Xamarin Essentials to store some data. If you are not familiar with the Xamarin Essentials, basically Xamarin Essentials is a collection of useful libraries to help you dealing with different cross-platform operations such as permissions, files, photos, and in this case we will use Xamarin Essentials to store some smaller pieces of the data to the user preferences. So let's start with our logic. The first thing I will make sure if our preferences doesn't contain the key constants that shown onboarding. What we need to do is to navigate to the onboarding screen. And also what we need to do is to store to the preferences actual value of the shown onboarding and set it to true. From this, we will just return task, completed task. I'm missing the exclamation mark here. So next, if the preferences already contain the key shown onboarding, then we need to check whether or not the user has been logged in. So if our preferences contains key which comes from constants is user logged in, and if the value of that key is equal to true, so if this value is equal to true, then what we want to do is to go to the wallet view. So we will navigate to the wallet view, and from here we can return task.completed task. Finally, we have shown to the user the onboarding, but the user is not logged in the application. In this case, we will navigate to the login screen. Okay, we have some missing pieces, so let's go ahead and create the missing views and files.